Welcome back, everybody, to the PCS Journal. I'm Al Ruechel from Bay News 9, and also kind of filling in here that I've been doing for the last, I think it's 28 or 29 years. Joining me right now is Chief Luke Williams from the Pinellas County School Police Force. Thank you for joining us today.
No, it's my pleasure. Good morning.
It's fun because we've already talked, and we have a piece coming up on Bay News 9 that many of you, I hope, will see. But it's good seeing you because you've been around the city of St. Petersburg for a while, and when I heard that you got this job, I said, man, this job was made for this guy. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I had no intentions of continuing to work once I retired, but after 32 years at St. Pete, and 17 of which was as an assistant chief in charge of uniform services, worked very closely with the schools, mentor a lot.
Yeah.
And this was a path that was meant for me, so I'm here, and I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm excited about the work that's ahead of us.
Yeah, not all school districts are fortunate enough, and I use that word advisedly, fortunate enough to have their own police department.
Right, contemporarily now is something that we're going to be going to, I think, around the state.
Mm-hmm.
And Pinellas County has been on the forefront of many things, especially with school hardening, some of the things that are coming up now as a result of the state law. But having a police department for the schools has been proactive, and it's now something that's going to be catching on around the state.
So prior to 7026, which is the Senate bill that was passed, what did police officers do in the Pinellas County Schools?
Actually, our Pinellas County Schools officers are certified police officers, just like your regular jurisdictional officers through St. Pete, Largo, Clearwater, any police department. So we have the same credentials, the same certifications as those other officers, and we're SROs in the schools. We have a number of centers that we are SROs in, and we assist whenever there's issues that come up, lockdowns or those types of situations.
Mm-hmm.
Where we go. We're a special full-service police department with a focus on our children and on our schools.
Now, when there are incidents that occur within school districts, then I'm just curious, jurisdictionally, how does this work? Do you do the investigating, or do you investigate and then hand it off to the local municipalities in terms of like the arresting authorities, charging authorities, et cetera?
Well, we have partnerships with all of our jurisdictions, from the sheriff's office through all the municipalities.
Uh-huh.
And we have SROs in the high schools and the middle schools, and basically they have the jurisdiction there, but so do we. And it depends on the investigation. If it's something that involves a student or a faculty member, we actually go in and investigate those. We respond to any of the lockdowns
Mm-hmm.
that we actually have. And so it depends on the circumstance, but we can go into any of our schools and work with the staff and work with the students. And we have great partnerships with the municipalities as well.
So a school resource officer, if I remember right, they usually were dressed in Pinellas County Sheriff's outfits.
No, actually, our SROs with Pinellas County Schools will be dressed like me.
Oh, they will now. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
they have been, and
okay.
school resource officers in St. Petersburg would have the St. Pete uniform, Largo, Clearwater. So it's based upon the jurisdiction in which the school
Well, it
resides.
explains it. And we had kids down in St. Pete and up in Palm Harbor, so
Right.
I noticed the difference in the uniforms. So you had a hiring event. How many spaces do you need to fill?
I'm looking at about 30, but that's a moving target at this particular point. With the law, we have to have an officer in each of our schools, and our elementary schools to this date hadn't been covered.
Okay.
So there's 81 elementary schools that we need to cover. With a combination of our schools police officers hiring and then those of our security officer hiring, we'll be able to cover those schools.
So that would be a total staff of what?
Right now I'm at 27 employees,
Mm-hmm.
so we're looking to add about 50 or 60.
So there's a total of how many schools? There's 159 schools?
There's 150 and 140. I'm not
Right.
really certain of the
Yeah,
exact
in
number,
that
but
area.
there's over 130.
So you'll eventually be required to provide security for all of those facilities?
Well, that depends on the municipalities, because a lot of the communities like to have their officers in their particular
okay.
schools.
Now I see how
So it
that works.
depends on, like with our high schools currently and our middle schools, the municipalities basically would like to have their officers there. They just couldn't, from a fiscal standpoint, figure out how to make it work with the elementary schools at this particular time.
Now, we had our cameras, I wish I could show you these, but if you watched Bay News 9, you would have seen the piece that Kate McVeigh did. And we actually interviewed a number of the people that had applied, which was really interesting because there were, and I know you know this, there was kind of some people that were there, yeah, I thought it would kind of be cool to be a safety officer, which you had some of that. But then you had a retired police chief from the state of Ohio was one, and then a New York City detective and his wife, who also worked for the police department, were applying for the jobs because they had come down here, bought a boat, they retired, and 2 years later, guess what? They were bored.
Okay.
They're a little bit like you. It's
Well,
like,
well, I can tell you that there's a, I don't want to use the word market, but there is a need for individuals of that particular caliber to come out and help protect our students, and also as the officers, because prior to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, my goal was to take the schools police to a different level as far as mentoring and engaging with our children and making sure that we build those relationships so that when they run into a police officer on the street, or if they in their personal lives have contact with officers, they'll have a different impression of what these people are. And I'd like for them to know that police officers, SROs, are just individuals just like them who happen to wear a uniform to work every day.
that's kind of almost like a community policing extended into the schools.
That's
It's actually easier because community policing, you're spread out over such a wide area, but at the schools you have everybody that's in place. So what's the most difficult part of training for those people that are going into the school districts? Is it the weapons training? Is it the personal interaction training? Is how to spot people that could be troublemakers? What?
I think it's going to be a combination of all of what you mentioned. Basically, diversity training, implicit bias training, firearms, basically being able to determine what may necessarily be a threat and what isn't. And there's a lot of things that we're working out currently with the training to make sure that it fits the needs that we're going to have to be able to have these individuals in our school, be a good component of it, and basically delineate what their task would be while they're there.
When I hear the word diversity training, and you were the St. Petersburg Police Department, tell me what exactly that is, and what are you trying to accomplish? And is it different for each particular city?
It may be. It depends on the person who's receiving the training and what their experiences have been. And obviously we have all types of students from all different places, all type of administrators from all different places. And we want to get the type of person in there that's able to get along with people. Obviously, if you don't like kids, this isn't the job for you. So we want to make sure we have the right type of person with the right temperament, with the ability to speak and communicate, and basically get along with not only the students, but also the faculty, staff, and the principals that they're going to be working with.
Now, the active shooter scenario, something that has been adopted, but relatively recently, if you talk about policing in general. So is that still kind of the mode that would be used with the security officers? Is that the object is to eliminate the threat as quickly and as soon as possible?
It is, and we're looking at active assailant is what we're going to be calling it, because it may not necessarily be a shooter that we may be addressing. So a lot of the training that we'll be coming up with, and unfortunately it's just the timeline. If we had more time before the beginning of school, we could do it a little bit more slower, but the training and everything that we're going to need to do, not only with the security officers and the staff, but also with the students. There's different components that we're going to need to talk with them about and make sure that they understand if you go into a drill, if there is a notification of something going on in your campus, what are the things that you can do?
Yeah. Is it different for elementary, middle, and high school? Are they trained different?
Absolutely. We want to make sure that our kids in elementary school are not traumatized by the training that we give them. So we're looking to make it fun for them.
Yeah.
And then when you get into middle school and the high school realm, there's different things that those students can do and that they understand. That's much, much different than the elementary school.
Now, see,
students.
I still remember back, I've been around long enough, the officer-friendly program.
Yes. Okay.
Does that still exist?
In some areas it does, and there's again, getting here, I was formulating in my mind different ideas and things that we can do to help build those relationships between the SROs and the students, and programs similar to that had come to mind. So there's things that once the smoke clears, I'll be able to sit down and hopefully we'll be able to talk again about innovative programs that I'm looking to put into the schools to help our kids.
Does obviously every school has a budget. Does the monetary side come into play with what you're working with? Like I understand we talked to Dr. Grego and he said the needed resources will be provided. Is that a problem per se, or is it something you can deal with?
Well, there's always a concern about the fiscal aspect of it, but I can tell you that since I've been here, I've had nothing but great cooperation from the school board and from Dr. Grego and his staff, but I also have to make sure that I understand and that when we're putting in these programs that money can be a factor. As a matter of fact, had there been the particular funding that we need, we wouldn't be having to hire the officers that we're having to hire at this particular point.
And the thing the public needs to know is that these are not just people that came in and said, I want to be a cop. These are trained people. Actually, they can act, do they have the authority to arrest people too?
They do not.
Okay.
Actually, their role, the security officer's role, will be to ensure the safety of the school. And the way that we're looking at the program, we're not looking for them to infuse themselves into minor school fights and those types of things. We'll do the training to make sure that they understand what it is that they should be.
Well, and that's
attention
the
to.
advantage, because you want them to be considered to be kind of friendly people. I mean, as well, especially in the
Yes.
high school realm.
Absolutely.
But I remember with all of our kids, we knew all this, the SROs. They were, we really enjoyed them, you know, especially when they gave us preferential parking, which they didn't, which they never did. We were in the long line around the school. So eventually, are your numbers going to increase beyond this, about the 80 that you said you're going to need? Do you think?
They could. Again, it depends on the level of cooperation that we get from the various municipalities. And I'm very interested and excited about being able to come in. And my predecessor, Chief Stelgis, did a great job. But I'm really excited about being able to build the organization, make it larger, and build it from the ground up as it relates to size and responsibilities.
Well, I know anybody that knows you knows your heart, and I'm telling you that is the best thing that you bring to this job. Besides your many, many years of police experiences, you really have a heart for what you're doing. So I'm personally very glad that you're here.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you and your friendship, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to go out and help protect our children.
Well, you'll do a great job, I'm sure. Back with more of our program right after this, so please stay with us.